The journey inward. I'm Lisa Urbanski with The Advisor. Before we get started, do not forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And a big shout out to Dr. Bradley Nelson and iHeartRadio for your sponsorship. And to our fans, we love you. Again, please do not forget to like and subscribe before you leave today. So, welcome to chapter one of Mike Wood's podcast to book series. I have the honor of sitting down with him today. He's the COO of a $100 million company. He's a transformational coach and founder of Learn to Love Being You. So, his story is powerful. Growing up with dyslexia, carrying deep, deep shame, learning to face fear through boxing and building a really amazing company worth a lot of money only to realize outward success did not equal inner peace. How shocking is that? His journey inward is one of resilience, reinvention, and reprogramming the mind. And this is chapter one. So we're going to go in the journey inward and see what Mike can tell us about that in his life. It is so good to have you here. I'm so excited about this. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Lisa.
Yeah. So Mike, I want to ask you this. For people meeting you for the first time, how do you introduce yourself today?
That's a good question. I'm Mike. I try not to go into anything more than that. I'm just me. Um, I try not to carry too many labels with who I am. So I'm being honest. That's how I typically answer that question.
Yeah, no, I love that because yeah, so many people they put these titles like you go on social media and you see someone and they've got like a million titles and you're like, what? Like,
Yeah.
who are you? Like, who are you really, right? So I think that speaks a lot, and it leads me into my next question. So, I mean, you've built so much success on paper, but what was life really like for you 6 years ago?
It was miserable, to be honest. It was really rough. Um, kind of it was kind of the end of a road. I had achieved everything that I thought would make me happy. And there was nothing there. I have my wife, my best friend. I have healthy kids that are all, working their way through life and they're doing amazing. I got a job that allows financial freedom for my family. And I'm inside, I'm still miserable. 6 years ago, I was just fed up. I think I told my boss and friend, Jason Jarrett, said told him I was going to quiet my mind by any means necessary, and it wasn't a joke. Like I meant it. I had to quiet the noise in my head because it was making me miserable every day.
So, at that time, you thought that achieving the next level of success or getting the new car or anything external was going to bring you that peace that you were craving, and that's not what you found.
No, no, and that's kind of where I was. 6 years ago, I literally, when I was young, I just wanted to, because I started having kids really early, and I just wanted to take care of my daughter and then take care of my son and, get into a house and then find the right woman and then, just get to the next step. And I always thought that next thing was going to make me happy. And it never came. And 6 years ago, I was looking at myself objectively, and I go, I literally have everything that I've ever asked for, and I'm still miserable. Like this is this is I'm not doing something right here. I have to look in a different direction. And I've been looking outward, and I turned all that same focus and energy that I put into work and family and everything else. I turned it inward, and I kind of started to find something different in this world.
Wow. So you've also said that your greatest weakness and greatest strength sat right next to each other. Can you explain that?
Yeah, dyslexia was something that was pretty rough on me when I was a kid. Growing up, just not being able to read. In the late 70s, early 80s, there wasn't anybody figuring out if somebody had dyslexia. You just got plugged in with the rest of the kids. And so I graduated high school at about a second grade reading level. Um, and I could read words, but just one at a time. And some words I'd have to really try hard to sound them out. Um, and so there was a lot of really embarrassing moments growing up in school. I think the first time I remember uh, was in kindergarten when I realized that my teacher at the time was getting frustrated because I couldn't spell Michael. Um, and that's when I became Mike. She asked me to do Mike because I could actually spell Mike. And that was when I realized that the other kids could all spell their name. My teacher was frustrated at me, and that's when I started, the programming of negative core beliefs that I wasn't as smart as everybody else. But with that negative, that positive was I could do math and multiplication, division, percentages in my head since I could talk.
Wow.
Math just came easy, and I think it's a little bit more than math. I think it's problem solving skills. If I could see the full picture, I could work through issues and solve problems, and it served me really well in my life. But there's always been a counterbalance that, oh, you're not smart enough. Inside somewhere I would go, yeah, but you are, because you could do this and this. But then the voices of the past would always pipe up there, and still today, I surround myself with people who can do the things really well that I can't. So
Right.
we got to read contracts and do a lot of stuff around here. So I got Rachel Diatley, and she's an amazing contract reader. I don't have to read contracts. I just have to build a checklist to know that all these things are covered, and she can take care of that, and we can get things signed and get them out the door. Um, so yeah, my my strength and weaknesses have lied very close together.
That's it's crazy to me that, you know, we all get clumped into this one group as we're growing up in the most formative years of our lives. And we're supposed to be a certain way. And those are traumatic experiences for someone who's young to feel like they're different and they're not good enough. And that is so incredibly challenging. I also know that sports were a huge part of your youth. So how did that shape you?
Sports was I was a pretty good athlete. I was fast. I was small, but I was fast, and so I played football and played basketball, and I was decent. But the lessons I learned in sports uh, were kind of traumatizing, to be honest, because very early on I got hit with I'm stupid, and I got stuck with those type of thoughts, those self-deprecating thoughts that just chew up your head. And so I go play basketball. It's kind of the guy that could on the practice field or in the gym would be an A+ athlete and be able to perform, but get me into a game where I had to think about it and under high pressure. If my brain started to think, my skill set would just drop. So I would constantly have some more mental challenges there, just beating myself up. Why can't I perform the way I do in practice versus a game? And, the whole mental dialogue uh, would kind of chew me up there. But I did find it solace, to just play sports. And it was the one place when I would just play for recreational that I could quiet the mind. It was the one place I could find solace, um, and, go out and battle against some other dude and, have fun and quiet the mind.
Yeah, what a beautiful feeling. But I could see how the duality of that, the under pressure, you've been told you're not good enough, and then under pressure to play the game, suddenly your brain's telling you that you're not going to do well.
Yep.
Oh, God, that must
Yeah.
have been so challenging. Like it's like two sides of your brain are like yelling at each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was, constant. It's involuntary. You can't stop it. It's just involuntary. And, I understand how that works now, but for until I was 45 years, I had no clue.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people listening to this and a lot of people that don't feel good enough. So by telling your story, you're going to allow them to feel more at ease because they're going to relate to this. So I would love to go deeper. So what about the gangs? There's gangs that came into your school. So tell us about that.
So I lived in a small airport town in northern LA County, just over the mountains. And when I was in junior high, about when I was about 12 years old, there was a recession in the airport work, and all these families left and they moved to where the work was, and it left all these homes vacant. Well, LA County just shipped a bunch of lower income houses, folks into our neighborhoods, and immediately, there was guns and gangs in our
Wow.
schools, and I went from just a young kid just going through his days trying to figure out life to trying to safely get home, because my mom did her best with three young boys, but we lived on government assistance, and I pretty much was free range type of kid. I could be out till midnight if I wanted to be, and I would always have to walk everywhere, maybe a mile to or from school, because I didn't want to take the bus because I didn't want to sit on there with other people.
Yeah.
but but yeah, it and that was another challenging part of my life was the I had this immense fear of fighting, and I didn't know what it was caused from, because I could physically play sports and I would smash my head into somebody else's on a football field and not a big deal. I would battle in physical sports and never had any fear of the other person across me. But when it came to a fight, all of a sudden this panic, it would just come over me, and it was silly because I physically could fight, but mentally there was just a wall there. And so as I was younger, I would just run from fights, and as a young man running from fights, you feel shameful. Like, a man's supposed to stand up, you're not supposed to run. I'm just a little kid trying to figure all this out, but um, it created a whole lot of shame. Like, it was almost unbearable, to the point where when I finally grew into my body, now that I'm about 6'2", when I grew into my body and I'd been practicing, I found some kids in the neighborhood who knew how to box. So I'd go hang out at their house and they taught me how to box. So summers I would be over there a couple, 2 or 3 days a week. And I learned how to box as I was coming up, but I was still too scared to even try it. Even though I can get in the ring with these guys and do okay, but in a real fight, I would still just be so terrified. Um, and you know, I ended up from 18 to 22, roughly. I got in a lot of fights. All you had to do is just ask me, and I would be ready to fight you out in the parking lot. I was the likes to fight guy for a small period of my life. I'm not proud of it, but it was just I did the opposite. Instead of running, now anything could get me out in the parking lot to fight somebody. And then I got good at it, and people getting hurt, and I didn't like that, but I still wanted to conquer the fear. So I started amateur boxing, getting into the ring, and it was still there. I did that for, I don't know, about 10 years off and on, and it's a long story, but I just kind of came to the opinion after that whole battle, in a fight where I got into the heavyweights and I shouldn't have been in, made it to the championship fight, and I fought a guy that was bigger, stronger, faster, and I just resigned to the fact that I have enough courage to move forward in spite of the fear. So just let it go. Like, fear is going to be there no matter what. You're supposed to be afraid. You're going to fight, you big dummy. Like, just get over it. Um, I found out when I was 48 years old, I was never afraid of fighting. I was afraid of what would appear to everybody else if I lost. It was an attachment to my ego that was created And the one time I met my dad when I was 12 years old and he was drunk talking about fights, I got excited. And now all of a sudden I adopted some old core belief that says you can't never look bad in a fight. You got to do whatever you can. And it just created this naive core belief of a 12-year-old that was ignorant. And in 1 hour and a half session, that's gone. And I didn't have to go through all of that. But at the end of the day, me facing my fears for so many years in a lot of really difficult situations, when it came time for me to go inward when I was 45 years old, there wasn't anything on the inside that scared me enough to turn away from it. There is nothing on the inside of me that I will ever be afraid of because of that lesson that I learned over that time. So when it came time for me to look inward, the path was there was something in front of me. I was just going to run straight at it. And it benefited me quite a bit when it came time to do real work and look inward and heal.
So, so fast forward then to 6 years ago when you hit that breaking point. So can you take us to that moment?
Yeah, like I said, I was ready to quiet my mind by any means necessary. And so when I first started to go inward and look, just because I just solved a bunch of problems at work. We went through a traumatic little experience. Started out the year like $1.2 million in the hole, and that was a big deal for us, especially at the rate at which we were growing. You know, companies that grow that fast, 9 out of 10 of them don't make it. You know, that type of growth is in the thousands of percents, and most people don't make it through that. So we had a pretty scary moment in the middle of that, and I just went into fix mode. I basically revamped every uh, every procedure we had in the company, and we changed a lot of things. And in that, after that 6 months of that deep dive, working 90 hours a week, I looked around and I didn't have anything else to do. And I realized in all of that work that I did that a lot of the mistakes that we had made were my fault. And so I started to just go, all right, well, to not make these mistakes anymore, like not only did I make those mistakes and I can learn from those, but I still don't know what the hell I'm doing here. Like let's see what else I could do by working on myself to make me just a better leader, a better, employee. So maybe I can learn enough to take us to the next place. And as soon as I went inward, well, the first person I talked or got a hold of was Tony Robbins, and he tried to he turned my focus inward. And the second I just started inward with meditation and a couple different things, the game was on because I immediately felt something good after. A 10-minute meditation made me feel good for 2 minutes. And that 2 minutes was a gift. I hadn't felt that. I never felt that kind of a good overall feeling in my body. So the first initial actions gave me a positive response that was tangible. And that's all I needed was that affirmation that that was the right direction.
Wow. I'm curious about you're working 90 hours a week. You run out of work to do because I'm having a visceral reaction to that myself, just thinking about it. Because when I can't quiet my mind, I go into overwork mode. And then when I stop, I'm like buzzing with anxiety because I'm like, shit, now I got to sit here with myself, you know?
Yeah.
Like that must have been intense
Yeah.
from working so much to now what?
Yeah. And I just put all of that focus on me. Of course, I don't read, but I was listening to 5 to 10 books a month. I started meditating immediately up to an hour, 2 hours a day. And that went on for like 3 years. All those books, all that meditation, I took a Reiki course. I took Akashic Records courses, intuition courses, like anything I could get my hands on. I just I started grabbing all of it and just digesting all of it. So I kept up that same intensity, that work for the next 3 years on nothing but myself. And it just digested so much material. But the biggest one was, immediately somewhere in, I guess I'd call it a spiritual awakening, I started feeling energies in my hand. And it was really cool. Like I could just have a little focus. I put a crystal in there. I feel energy in my hand. And I started playing with the energies in my body. And then I saw online about an energy healer doing energy work. And I was like, okay, like I gotta sit and see what this is. And that's when I got introduced to Chris Hancock, one of the most amazing humans on the planet. He's just, there's not anything in the spiritual world or the therapist world that he can't speak very intelligently on. And he had his own spiritual breaking, like a deep, dark night of the soul, is what he calls it, where he kind of broke and he became a bit of a channel. And he is transformed his practice. But he basically taught me how to go inward and find that 5-year-old Mike that was sitting there with the teacher, getting upset, feeling stupid, and reframe that entire situation with compassion, love, and forgiveness, and make it go away so it didn't haunt me anymore. And of course, we didn't start out with the big stuff, but we started knocking some of that stuff out. And after about 20 sessions in there with him, I found myself happy for no reason. And it was amazing. Just after the first session, I was hooked because I had a whole physical response and I felt great for about a week. But that was the biggest thing that's hit me. All the work that I've done has been great, but I've probably 170 core beliefs in now. I do them on my own. I still go see Chris just because it's an amazing part of what I do, and I just enjoy it. But yeah, that
You
transition from
you
that
wrote
work.
you rewrote
Huh?
more than 170 negative beliefs. So what does that mean?
So I described to you earlier about when I was in kindergarten, 5 years old, sitting there with my teacher, and she starts to get frustrated at me. And I'd start to notice that I'm the only kid in the room that can't read or can't write my own name. That created an elevated emotional state. When you get into an elevated emotional state, that's when the subconscious mind is opened and primed to be programmed. Your emotion that you feel is what you're left with as a program. So in that moment, I got in an elevated state and I got left with, I felt stupid. That was my emotional state. I felt like I wasn't as smart as anybody else. So that was what I would call a negative old core belief. And Chris taught me how to methodically go back in and just reframe all of them, make them all
Wow.
go away so they don't haunt you. Because one of the things I've learned about the subconscious mind is it has no concept of time.
Yeah.
So everything happens in the present moment. We like to think we know what's going to happen in the future and we focus on the past, but in reality, everything only ever happens in the present moment. And that moment when I was 5 is still here right now with me. I've gone back. I forgave the teacher. I forgave the other kids for laughing at me. And I forgave myself for not understanding and whatever. And now all of a sudden, it moves on. The subconscious mind is trying to protect us. All right. So it's trying to protect us from harm. Just like if I was a 2-year-old little boy and I fell in the pool, if somebody pulls me out and I got air in my lung, I got water in my lungs, and somebody saves me, my subconscious mind is designed to hold a fearful memory on a high level to keep me from falling in the pool again. The
Right.
2-year-old kid, next time I see that pool, I'm like, I'm getting away from that pool. That's what the subconscious mind is trying to do. It's trying to protect us from the threat of death. The problem is the subconscious mind will also protect us from anything that we attach to our ego. So I was attaching myself as a smart little boy. And as soon as I now was deemed not smart by myself or by the teachers or by the situation, that subconscious mind is going to try to protect me from that. Never wants me to feel that way again. It thinks that is death. So it'll try to protect us, and it doesn't need to. There's so many ways to get all of that stuff out of the past. And it's very scientific. It's universal for everyone. It's 1 plus 1 equals 2 with the subconscious mind. It works the same for everyone. Now, not everyone is ready to get started on this, but I'm gonna say 95% of folks. I've come across some people um, who are like manic depressive, and they may need some medication maybe to calm them down, just to where they can get control themselves, or maybe their the chemicals in their body are off and it's throwing them off. So there's nothing they can do to really get control of themselves. But as long as everything physically is healthy, the subconscious mind works the same for everyone. And it's been for me, those problem solving skills that I learned as a kid, um, once I dove into this, man, it's just like, wow, like this, everybody should have been taught all this in elementary school.
Crazy, right? The subconscious mind doesn't understand the difference between reality and the makeup of an emotion. So I could be thinking about something that happened 20 years ago, and my subconscious mind will think it's real right in this moment.
Yes.
And it's the only thing that actually knows the truth. The subconscious mind knows everything. It's like the master program of our whole entire body. And
Yeah.
if we literally go in and ask it a question, it'll give us a direct answer. And most people don't know how to pay attention to that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Like it only knows the present moment. And another thing it doesn't know the difference between you and somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I say something mean and ugly to you, my subconscious mind thinks I'm saying something mean and ugly to myself. Oh, so it doesn't. The subconscious mind is very computer-like. It's very much like a computer. What you type in is what you get out. It doesn't know who's typing it in. It only thinks one person is typing in and out. It doesn't have any concept of rational thinking or time. It's always now. What do you mean future? It's no. You're typing on the keyboard, and I'm giving you back what you're putting in.
You know what's coming to my mind right now? The we are the product of the five people we hang out with the most, you know? Like that's what that's making me think of right now. Because
Yeah,
essentially, you're right, we're all connected. So the consciousness doesn't know the difference between everybody. So we're surrounding ourselves with all these people, and they're putting in programs into our computer, and it's kind of all meshing together.
yeah,
It's
yeah. Isn't that what everybody says? If you want to know your bank account, all you got to do is look at your five closest people, and it's going to be very similar to what theirs is. Yeah, it, it, we get used to everybody wants to be in a comfortable place. Like
Hmm.
nobody wants to be challenged. The subconscious mind, that's now they're trying to protect you. It's going to push you away. It's going to tell you not to do it. Everybody wants to be in a comfortable place. That's the beautiful thing about the subconscious mind is just like you described my wins, my skill set and my my trauma as a child. They were so closely allied. That's the same way it is with the subconscious mind. It's trying to protect us. It thinks it's us. It wants to live. It is fighting for survival, but at the same time, it's fighting in ways that it doesn't need to fight. Like it's trying to protect us from, who we identify as, all the labels. Like I didn't just say that for a silly reason when you ask me, when people ask me who I am, I don't try to have a label because if I put a label on me, if if something on the outside world attacks that label, I'm going to have an involuntary response to that. And all I have to do is remove any label from me and nothing can hurt me. My inner peace is being protected by removing all labels, all attachments. And now all of a sudden, the subconscious mind doesn't have anything to protect me from.
Mm. So, out of your transformation came learn to love being you. So, what is this program and how does it help others?
Learn to love being you is that 3 years of intensive work all just bottled up into one program. And like the first 10 people that went through it, they were beautiful people who knew it was all very new, and we changed it. They helped me build it and reorganize it and put it in its proper order. But I just took everything that I learned and I put it all into this program. And the first 3 weeks of it uh, is learning how to manually take control of our thoughts, because most people think you can't take any control of them, but you absolutely can. And so I teach people to manually take control of their thoughts. And then the next 6 weeks is baby steps into the difficult work. The difficult work of removing attachments. Um, You'd be surprised how hard somebody will hold on to even being a Tennessee Titans fan, or being the title of their job, being a brother, a daughter, a mom. Like some of those things, they're all sources of pain. But man, people are going to cling on to them even once they realize that this will remove pain from me. They're still not letting it go. Um, and then forgiveness. Forgiveness is the key to all of this. If you can't forgive yourself or others, so we go through exercises to help start practicing them, baby steps, and build up to the bigger stuff. And then the reason the whole program was created was for the core beliefs. So you kind of learn how to manually quiet your mind and your emotions, and then you start working through the healing steps to get to the core beliefs. Because here's one thing that happens when you start redoing core beliefs is you've got these parts in there. They call it, I don't know if you know anything about IFS, but it's internal family systems. And so you've got hundreds of parts of Lisa, maybe thousands in there, that are all working to protect this one, and they're all going. And if you've got some, like if I use mine, for example, if I use that 5-year-old kindergartner as an example, he sat in there in that moment for 40 years. And he would scream from time to time, right? When something would get triggered and whatever, he was screaming. There was voices, he was the noise in my head. If I go in there when I free him, I move him out of that fear bucket, put him in the love bucket. Don't gotta worry about that little guy anymore. He's healed. That moment is gone. Well, we've got hundreds more. And
Yep.
they all start to see that you just let one loose, and they want loose too. So they get a little noisy. And if you don't practice and you don't build up to this, then you could get overwhelmed and thrown into a bit of a difficult state. So I try to give people tools to manually, the first 3 weeks is so powerful for when you start to do core beliefs, because the first 2 or 3 or 4 is when everything starts to scream. But if you can get about a month and a half, 2 months in, where you do one every week or every 2 weeks, now all of a sudden your body starts to go, no, we don't got to freak out. He's powerful, or she's powerful. We can calm down. She's taking control. We're look at what she just did. That's so amazing. Like all the parts start to talk to themselves and calm down. They're not freaking out anymore. So they all start to they flare up like a fire, and then they start to calm down, and they get even calmer than they were beforehand. But if you don't have tools when you're going through that, you don't know what's going on, it could be a very difficult time. So the tools in week 1 through 3, you can manually shift all those. Oh, I know what's happening. All I got to do is my box breathing. I can do my gratitude journal. I could do my exercises, my journaling exercise. I go back to the Learn to Love Being You program, where you actually figure out how to actually love yourself and take care of yourself. Um, so you have all these tools that when you get to the the difficult stuff, you can take care of yourself.
Where can people find out more about your program?
Learn to love being you.com. Got a little website, and it's evolving every day. It's going to get better. Just like me, I'm new to all this, and but the program is it's live, it's out there, and anybody can take it. And anybody who does take it will have access to me as well. I'm going to have a weekly coaching call for anybody who's taken the course. So you won't be alone in this journey.
Beautiful. So, for someone listening who feels stuck or defined by their weaknesses, what message do you have for them?
You're not stuck. These are all programs. Just like you drive subconsciously, you drive home subconsciously. We're talking right now subconsciously. These are programs from your past. Your subconscious mind is trying to protect you, and it's causing this pain, but it doesn't know what it's doing. And so, if you can learn how the subconscious mind works, you can become a programmer of it. You get to make it work for you instead of against you. So I get that it's scary and it's hard. It does feel hopeless. And there's so much out there that, you don't know what's true and what's not. But I promise you, anybody who's ever gone in and reprogrammed old core beliefs will tell you that it's life altering.
Mm. Mike, I'm so excited to jump into this book and to get into the other chapters. Thank you so much for being here today and for sharing the deepest parts of you. That takes a lot of courage. And I mean, I can feel your heart in this, and it's magical.
Thank you. I appreciate you letting me share it and help me get all this out into a book. It means a lot.
Amazing, amazing. I can't wait till next time. And to our audience, if you're struggling with anything, check out Mike's website, check out his program, and know that you're not struggling alone. We're all struggling. We're all going through something. So don't sell yourself short. Go get some help. Ask for help. Tell somebody. Do not struggle alone. Stay tuned for the next episode where we go into chapter 2 of this amazing journey of Mike Wood. And from now on, I'm just going to call him Mike. We don't ask him who he is. He's Mike. Until next time, take care, everybody.